Bonjour, je m'appelle Emma, je viens d'Australie, à Sydney, and I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, a revolutionary socialist group in Australia. So in Australia, over the last couple of months, we've had sort of an explosion of demonstrations and protests in support of the Palestinians and against the genocide in Gaza. So it started with the Palestine Action Group in Sydney, which Socialist Alternative are an important part of. We suggested a march across the bridge. We gauged that there was enough support in the population to take this historic landmark in support of Palestine. This is something that doesn't happen very often. When the people march over the bridge, it's usually because the Australian government have said it's okay to do so. But when we suggested a march across the bridge for Palestine, the state government of New South Wales said no, you can't, and tried to ban the protest. And then for about a week, there was a showdown between the protesters and the government over whether we could do it. There was huge outpouring of support for the Palestine Action Group and for our right to take this historic landmark in support of Palestine. And so eventually, at the very, very last minute, we won a court case and the march went ahead. 300,000 people marched across the bridge as a result. So this was easily the biggest protest for Palestine in Australian history. Since then, I'm very excited to announce that since I've been in France, there has been another protest, this time a national one across all the cities and towns of Australia, which had something like a combined turnout of 500,000 people. So again, the biggest protests for Palestine in Australian history. This is not just sudden in a way. It is a response to the escalation in Gaza, but it's also the result of 2 years of weekly protests, come rain, hail or shine. The Palestine Action Group in Sydney in particular has made sure that there are mobilisations very often and that these mobilisations attempt to get as many people as possible involved in them. And it's something that Socialist Alternative has been heavily involved in for something like 2 decades. So I think this is part of why we've been able to, at this crucial juncture, get so many people out. It's also been driven by our own government's appalling position on Israel. They have a two-way arms trade with Israel, so we sell weapons to Israel and we buy them back as well. And one of the, we sell crucial components of the F-35 bombers that have been strafing the skies of Gaza to the Israelis. Recently, a member of the government came out and said that these are non-lethal parts that we sell to the Israelis, which is crazy. They are parts of F-35 bombers. They actually manufacture the doors that open and let the bombs drop. So, of course, extremely lethal parts of an extremely lethal weapon of mass destruction. And so this has also caused people in Australia to become furious and come out to protest. Well, because of the outpouring of support from all sectors of society, workers, students, young people and old, for the first time, I think ever, the Australian trade unions, or some of them at least, have felt the need to come out and support the Bridge March and support Palestine. So this is a really historic moment for us because the trade unions in Australia for a long time have been quite conservative and refused to take any position on important political issues like this, even when it's so clearly linked to the Australian government's own policies and Australian capitalism. So this has been a really good move that some unions have come and supported it. And so, yeah, the protests have been, I think, have involved all sectors of the Australian working class and students especially. We also, it's worth saying, students have played a really important role in building this movement over the last 2 years. When the Columbian universities had their student camps for Gaza and occupations of the universities, Sydney was the first Sydney University was the first one to start a similar camp of solidarity. It lasted for something like a month and a half, 2 months. and spread to all of the other campuses in Australia. So yeah, students have played a really important role in keeping this issue alive in the public consciousness, fighting back against the government when it tries to repress people for supporting Palestine. So of course, like here in France, there have been attempted expulsions and suspensions of students, sackings of university staff for supporting Palestine, and the student movement has played a really important role in fighting back against that. And I think making people feel confident to come out and protest despite the slander that supporting Palestine is anti-Semitic, despite the slander that it means supporting terrorism and all of that kind of stuff. I think people have felt, even when our government is against our right to protest, that we should pursue it. We still have a right to protest. So in terms of the perspectives of the revolutionary socialist left, I mean, I've already given you some of them. Our perspective has been to try to get as many people out as possible, which seems obvious, but it's not. It's been a debate about where we've argued that the role of this movement should be to reach as many people as possible, to have huge demonstrations when we can, and to keep those going and make them as mass as possible, rather than just focusing on small radical actions, which have their place. But trying to reach out to the workers of Australia and say this is not just about people of Arab descent supporting some foreign issue, as our government calls it. This is about the Australian working class as a whole standing up for what's right, but also refusing to be complicit in a genocide that is being carried out with the help of our government. Well, I'm excited to go home to be a part of building whatever happens next. One of the things that we've begun, I think is starting in the next few days, is again focused on the students. So the students are going to be having referendums basically called across every single university campus. So a vote of thousands and thousands of students to oppose the genocide, and particularly to oppose the complicity of their own universities in that genocide, because the universities in Australia have a million different links to Israeli weapon companies and the Israeli state, and this has been making students very angry. So we will be having, we hope, mass meetings across all of the universities where thousands of students come, they debate, they discuss this, and hopefully vote overwhelmingly to take action against their universities. So this is going to massively piss off the university administrators who have been fighting like hell to repress the Palestine movement, but I think it's a next obvious step to take this movement that has been built with the Bridge March and the national marches, to take it onto the campuses. We also are attempting, like I said, there's a historic shift now because the trade unions, some of them have come out to support Palestine, and so where we can, where as socialists we are in the unions and in the workplaces, we're attempting to, for example, in my union, we're fighting to try to force our union to support Palestine because it doesn't, and things like that. So there's a few opportunities as well to try to take advantage of this becoming a more mass issue amongst working class people. And then I think hopefully we'll continue to call mass demonstrations. One of the wonderful things about the Palestine movement in Australia is that I think it has really re-normalised big demonstrations and protests, and that if something unjust is happening, people should come out into the streets and demonstrate about it. And also that we have a right to do that, and the government can't stop us, even if they try with the police and with the courts and the laws. So that's been a real positive, and we want to keep going with that.